Well, thanks for staying with us. It's time now to discuss the issues making the rounds in the news this morning, and we'll be joined by a public affairs analyst who joins us from Ibadan, the capital of Oyo State. Mr. Olukunle Durodolu joins us virtually. Hello, Mr. Olukunle, and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you as well. Happy Democracy Day to you.
I wish you the same.
Now, let's talk about this. Ever since the famous June 12, 1993 elections, a lot of assessments have been done on how Nigeria has progressed democratically. And so far, so good. We've been able to amass 26 years of unbroken civil rule. But the big question remains on the significance of June 12 and how it translates into the stories of our struggles, sacrifices, and the spirit of democracy. In your thoughts and words this morning, how would you say Nigeria has fared in the struggle for true democracy?
In my own view, democracy is a journey. And from between the period of June 12, 1993 till date, we've made some significant progress. Military, we've been able to tell the military to stay in the barrack, and we've been able to define the way we want to be governed. Slowly and steadily, we are moving in the right direction. We may not have achieved some of the things people were have in their aspirations, but then it's a journey, like I said, and there are so many things that we've been able to achieve. The younger generations that are restless today, especially on social media, many of them didn't witness what happened during June 12. So it is very easy for some of them to be feeling that we've not done enough, or we are not doing anything at all, or we are not going in the right direction. I beg to disagree, because I witnessed what happened during June 12. Many people lost their lives. Many people were maimed for life. Many people had their business crippled because there were riots. Different kind of terrible things happened. I could remember the entire country was virtually shut down at some point when we want to remove the military forcefully. And one way or the other, we were able to bring democracy back. And to the generations who don't understand what we went through during June 12, many of them don't really know that during military administration, the freedom they have today, they can't express those things during military rule. We are heading in the right direction.
Now, let's talk about some pointers that represent the democracy that we enjoy today, one of which has been the 1999 Constitution. A lot of Nigerians beg to differ on it being a constitution that reflects the yearning of we, the Nigerian people, saying it is a post-military industrial complex packaged in a document. There have been calls for a constitution review and a referendum. What are your views in that direction?
Well, there is no, I see nothing wrong if people want referendum. I see nothing wrong if people want the constitution to be reviewed. But we must know that in democracy we have National Assembly. Their job is to guide us through these processes. It's not that we can just wake up one morning and wish that this is what we want and this is what must happen. We must follow the rules. Otherwise, we cannot build anything, we cannot build something or nothing. We must follow the laid down procedures outlined by the Constitution. That's the only way that we can get a desired result. Otherwise, anything we try to build on illegality will not work. We need to follow the directions of the National Assembly. And if we want some of the rules changed, if we want some of the laws amended, of course we can go through the National Assembly. That's why we have them. That's why their job is strictly to make laws. That's the number one job Constitution bestowed upon them. So we should go through them and whatever we want, let's channel it through them so that democracy is about dialogue, it's about negotiation. So I see nothing wrong if the majority people wants referendum, let's put it to a debate at the National Assembly. That's why we have people who are representing us in Abuja. So that we can
you had cited
we'll be able to extract something.
You had cited a disconnection of generations much younger than yourself and myself from the events of June 12, 1993's election and the days that followed. Now, one of these issues has also been in the discontinuance of subjects like history in certain school curriculums at the secondary school level. Can we really blame that on why most young persons are not aware of the functions of the National Assembly and the role of dialogue in forging the democracy that we envision to birth?
We must bring history back. I could remember growing up in the 70s, 80s in the schools. We did social studies, we did histories, we did a lot of things that at least made us to be aware of where we are coming from and possible where we are going. But now those things have been removed, and the younger generations that don't even know anything about our history, many of them just go on social media and it is whatever they see there that they believe. And there's a lot of distortions on social media, so we cannot rely on the distortions of social media to form a story. We need to bring history back into our curriculum so that we can pass across some of the things that happened that predate this generation, so that many of them will be aware of where we are coming from.
Now, talking about creating this awareness for our viewing public, especially the younger generations who might not know how June 12 came about being the current democracy day. Initially was May 29. Now, the national leader of the Pan-Yoruba Social-Cultural Group, Afenifere, Paruben Fasoranti, has commended former President Muhammadu Buhari for making that change from May 29 to June 12 as the day to commemorate Nigeria's Democracy Day. What does this symbolize for you, and how does it take in some direction part of the immortalization and the respect owed the hero of democracy, like we call him, the late Chief M.K. Abiola?
June 12 is significant to democracy in Nigeria because it was that day that we make a definite statement that we want democracy, we don't want the military rule. And the struggle that led to removing the hands of the military in our politics and bringing democracy to birth. We cannot forget the impact of these people. Chief M.K. Abiola, all the people that fought for democracy, everybody, there are so many people that play different roles, and these roles then help us to have the kind of democracy we have today. And we need to June 12 is very, very significant, because without that date, the democracy that we are celebrating on, that we used to celebrate on May 29, would have been futile. It was June 12 that birthed May 29. So it is significant that we identify June 12 as Democracy Day.
Now, Pa Ruben Fasoranti also made a remark in terms of the discussions on the need for a constitution amendment. Well, other than a constitution amendment, I find it interesting that he's recommending that Nigeria reverts to using the 1963 constitution, otherwise called the Republican Constitution, which provides for the autonomy of federating units. He says that is the only way that we can truly achieve local government autonomy and grassroots development, which will be reflective of the true reason democracy is seen as the best form of governance. Do you agree?
I agree with him totally, because this man has had experiences about Nigeria. They fought for democracy, they studied the situation, and they know that the 1993 constitution is very significant. It was the constitution that
1963,
we
not
embraced.
1993, 1963 constitution, the Republican Constitution.
Yes, 1963. It is important that though 1963 constitution we may not be able to practice it word for word today because of time, but we can bring something out of it that is modern, that we can revolutionize it in a way that's going to attend to the yearnings of year 2000, the millennium that we are in now. We may not, some of the things there may not be practicable in this generation, but of course we can modernize them, we can tinker with them, we can debate them, so that at least it will give us something that is up to date with our current challenges.
Now we've talked about the journey of democracy. You've highlighted the sacrifices of late Chief MK Abiola. We've also talked about the struggle so far. Let's talk about the spirit of democracy. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had submitted earlier to the National Assembly the need to revert back to the Nigerian we hail the national anthem, away from Arise, O Compatriot. It had evoked debates and people talked about the significance, and would it reflect an engendering spirit of patriotism? Now, borrowing from that, the National Assembly is now focused with these conversations on, do we follow the advice of Paruba and Fasoranti? Do we bring back the 1963 Constitution? Do we scrap the 1999 Constitution? How do we find a balance in what you have brilliantly encapsulated as a modernized version of a constitution? Borrowing from the leaf of what was done with the national anthem and its symbolism, how do we engender the spirit of democracy in this true representation? A government for the people, by the people, and of the people.
1999 Constitution was handed down to us by the military, and more or less everything that is encapsulated in it will be fait accompli, because we don't really have a choice at that time. But now that our democracy is stabilizing, there is nothing wrong in sitting down in roundtable discussions and bring out another constitutions that will be able to meet up with the yearnings of modern day Nigeria. Some of the things in 1999 Constitution may not be practicable today, but there's nothing wrong in having the discussions around it and build a formidable constitution that everybody will, most people will embrace. There's nothing wrong in sitting down to discuss some of these things. Without democracy, we cannot go back to the military era of guns and boots and force. We need to, at this stage, find a balance and create another constitutions and that's why we have National Assembly at the state level, that's why we have National Assembly at the federal level. By the time all these organs of democracy have discussions and everybody bring out some of their inputs and we debate it, of course we are going to bring out something better.
Now, there's also been some deviations, and we'll talk about the point number 2 on our lineup this morning. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, during the commissioning of several projects marking his second year in office in the FCT, he made a statement and he says that he would not be distracted by naysayers. He's vowed to give all his efforts towards nation building. Now, there have been deviations from certain rituals that were lined up to mark previous democracy days. One like the parade at the Eagle Square. It's been cancelled. The nationwide broadcast has also been cancelled. It will now be replaced by a joint address of both legislative houses, the red chambers and the green chambers, a joint session of a National Assembly address. What do you make of this deviation from the June 12 parade and the national broadcast?
President in his wisdom may have considered certain things that I feel necessary at this stage. We can have a national address and it won't really achieve any purpose. Whatever they want to achieve through the joint address of the National Assembly and the House of Rep members, is more or less like an address to entire Nigerians too, because at the end of the day, we're able to sit down and see what the president had in mind, what his visions for a new Nigeria, the kind of the way forward, where he feels we should go. I think by the joint address, he will be able to communicate his mind to the National Assembly, and at the end of that address, we will all sit down and see what we are going to achieve with that address. Because having a broadcast may not really have any. We've had so many broadcasts in time past, so there is nothing wrong in doing something differently. Probably the president has something he wants to communicate to these organs of democracy, and the outcome of that may back some of the things we are yearning for.
Now, not to ask you to preempt the president, but from a citizen's perspective, what are some of the issues that you would hope that in his address to these joint organs of the National Assembly he prioritizes?
Probably wants to talk about how we can achieve referendum, because I feel that is one of the things that will that is germane, that an average Nigerians want. Probably because the reason why you choose National Assembly must be something that has to do with that relates to the functions of national assemblies. So I feel he wants to speak in the direction of some of the things we are yearning for. So I can't preempt, but the reason why he's not making a national address but speaking directly to the National Assembly is because probably there's something within their powers that they can do that he wants to channel their direction towards.
Now, whilst this is an approach from the president, yourself as a civilian has also labeled down some of the expectations you have. Some other groups under the Take It Back movement and other Nigerians are vowing to have a street procession and a demonstration in what is being called a June 12th protest. They're saying that there needs to be urgent action against the current hardship Nigerians are experiencing and the widespread insecurity across major parts of the country. They have targeted areas like the Eagle Square and other symbolic city centers across the nation. What do you make of this approach, with some persons resorting to protest as their ways to express the assessment of our democracy so far?
Protest in democracy is part of one of the organs of democracy. People should be allowed to show their grievances. But some of these problems are problems that has been on for a very long time, and I don't see them disappearing soon. We want to fight insecurity. The bedrock of some of these problems started from the way people give birth indiscriminately. They refuse to send these children to school. They just give them plates to be begging on the streets. And when these children grow up to teenagers, many of them will be misinformed with some wrong doctrines because they do not have education. And from that, they are easy tools in the hands of terrorists. They are easy tools in the hands of bandits. They are easy tools in the hands of kidnappers. So we need to solve certain problems. Part of the problem is problems of education, part of birth control. People should not give back to children indiscriminately. Have the number of children you can cater for. If you can't manage these children, why bringing them into the world? So this is the bedroom. We have a population of young people that are not gainfully employed. So it is easy for these people to plug into, to find something for themselves. And that is some of the things that allow insecurity to fester. I can see the military, they are doing a lot of bombings and eliminations. But then you see these people multiplying. They will continue to multiply because the breeding ground is still there. And unless you visit the foundation of some of these problems, the problems will not disappear magically. And our economic challenges the way it is now, it will encourage the rich to be getting richer and the poor to be getting poorer, unless we do something holistic to address some of these problems. The people who are gainfully employed, they will be getting more money, and the people who are not doing anything may be impoverished the more. So the earlier we sit down and we try to bridge the gap between the rich and the middle class and the people at the lowest strata of the ladder, so that at least the middle class can be returned. It's like now, either you are rich or you are poor. The middle class are being faced off completely because of the harsh economic difficulties.
Now, that's one of the demands of the protesters. They have blamed some of the policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which they call anti-people policy. This is their words, saying that it could have been better managed in the removal of fuel subsidy, the flotation of the Naira policy, and others. How does the government dialogue with these protesters? Because I've heard a number of Nigerians saying that the government should throw its door open and invite the organizers of this protest to dialogue on these said issues in addressing hardship and remedifying the economic policies.
The people who are organizing this protest are, from the angle I see them, I see some of them as professional protesters. I don't see some of them ready to listen to anything government wants to say. If the policies of President Tinubu is not introduced as at the time he introduced them, the economy would have collapsed. The entire thing would have been terrible. So, but many of them are not really studying the situation. They just feel fuel subsidy should continue. If subsidy continues, we cannot continue to go and borrow money and subsidize fuel. And these fuels, at the end of the day, end up going to neighboring countries. It's not possible. We cannot continue to subsidize forex that people end up tripping to the black market and sell. It's not, those two policies will continue to destroy our economy. Yesterday, I read in the papers that we spent $388 billion to subsidize dollars between 1999 till date. So it is not sustainable. We cannot continue to borrow money to solve our economic, to subsidize. If it's even to do some important things, it's better. But you borrow money to subsidize what is dealing with corruption. It's not, those two things are not visible. They should face reality. And I don't see where we will implement such policies as at this moment, and Nigerians will not feel the impact. And if we refuse that, okay, let's continue to subsidize, that means we will resort to borrowing. Is that sustainable? Which country will continue to borrow us money so that we will not use such money to throw to people who will smuggle the fuel out of the country to go and sell? So I don't think it is visible in my own estimation. And I think the people who were protesting too should have studied these things and know.
Now, they're also making demands, much like there were promises accompanying fuel subsidy removal, one of which was the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative. They say the level of CNG adoption leaves a lot to be desired. They're also talking about the need to have a living wage as against the 70,000 Naira minimum wage. How does the government approach demands like that?
I agree. Government needs to up the minimum wage. They need to increase it so that it can catch up with the current realities. I agree that the CNG conversion is a bit expensive for an average Nigeria. Government can look into that area too, so that they can encourage as many people who wants to do the conversion. They can bridge the gap and make it easy, make it cheaper for them.
Now, in moving on to another issue in the news this morning, whilst these are pressing issues that affects the majority of Nigerians in terms of its citizens, other issues are more politically inclined, and it has also sparked reactions from the opposition, one of which is the Cold War between the APC and the PDP, more so exemplified in a relationship between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the FCT minister. Just yesterday, during the commissioning of Itinerary Road N6 in the FCT, the president also subtly extended an invitation to the FCT minister, saying he's welcome to join the All Progressive Congress whenever he's ready. This has also drawn some reactions from his camp in the PDP, who feel very aggrieved by some of the recent activities of Barrister Nyesom Wike. How do you assess this relationship between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who continues to say he's proud of the FCT minister as one of his best performing appointees?
The aim of the ruling party is to depopulate the oppositions. That's the aim. And the opposition should not begin to whip up sentiments that Nigeria will turn to one party state. What they should do as opposition is to rebuild themselves and make themselves formidable, make their party habitable, sit down and have a discussions around some of the problems among them. What led to Barrister Wike's antics is the way PDP mismanaged themselves at the last election, and between that time and now they've not been able to resolve their differences. And I don't see in my own the way I evaluate the whole thing, I don't see Nyesom Wike decamping to APC yet. At least if he wants to do that, I don't see him doing that now until after the second term of President Tinubu, because President Tinubu will need him in PDP so that the way they are having their logjam, they will need them to be there so that the whole thing is not resolved. That is the aim of that is what the ruling party will want, so that they can have easy victory. It is now in the ball of the opposition to sit down and put their house in order, resolve their differences, and bring back their members who are decamping into other parties, to bring them back so that at least they can be formidable. They should stop whipping up sentiment of the ruling party wants to turn Nigeria to a one-party state. It is the aim of the ruling party to depopulate opposition. They should stop playing victim here. There was a time PDP have so many states, and APC, now APC, it was ACN then, they have only one state in 2003. And the party did not relent. They were building on from one party state, from their own state. They were rebuilding until they brought 6 states in Southwest. I see that was not enough. In 2015, 2013, they sat down with another party, CPC, and they merged and then gave them the formidability they have today. PDP too should not begin to blame opposition for their internal anglings. They should sit down and find solutions to it.
Now this conversation on one-party state tendencies, at the position of governors and presidents, it might not be entirely true. But when you look at the National Assembly, the campaigns in both chambers have brought the number of senators in the red chamber to 68 out of 109. Whilst in the green chambers, members of the House of Representatives under the APC banner are now 207 out of 360. When it comes to voting on the floor of the House, technically, that gives them an advantage of having 2/3 to vote on whatever motions many would say would be favorable to the executive. How do we balance this argument when we look at one-party states within the parliament?
That is the danger of democracy. We should not allow that to happen. And that is where I have my problems with the oppositions. Look at Labour Party today. One of their leaders, Peter Obi, said the problems inside Labour Party is caused by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. How can you blame President Tinubu for the problems within your party? That is a responsible statement. It is your responsibility as a leader to bring your house in order. If you have a party, you are the leader of a party, and another people can still influence that party off your hand, then you are not in control. And if you cannot control a small party, how do you now want to control Nigeria? That is where the leadership question comes to bear. The same thing with PDP. These people should sit down and put their house in order. Labour Party members primarily were members of PDP who pulled out because of injustice some certain people feel is being meted out to them. So everybody should not stop the blame game. Look for where the problem starts from and retrace their steps and make their party formidable. The idea of blaming somebody for your now, if we've been able to collapse the house to the extent that opposition can no longer check any decisions that will be taken in National Assembly, is not good for democracy. It's not good for democracy because it will make everything one way. The other parties cannot have input. If the country is being led the wrong way, they cannot challenge because they don't have a say anymore. They are now in the minority. So I feel they should, for the love of democracy, sit down and find a common ground to make sure their party members are not decamping into opposition. It is not healthy for democracy.
Now let's talk about one of the campaign promises of President Bola Tinubu and the vision of having Nigeria experience 24 hours of electricity supply. The power sector has been bedeviled with a lot of disappointments from the angle of Nigerians. Now the recent case study is in the Northeast, where despite a prior notice from the transmission company of Nigeria that owing to constructions on the Jos Bauchi 33 kV line that they would experience power outage for 4 days. This morning, residents and business owners are lamenting that there should have been a resolve to some of the presidency's campaign promises to Nigeria of providing stable power. How would you assess this yearning for better power in the country?
Without electricity, we cannot improve our economy significantly. People who have to produce with diesel, it will have impact on their businesses. So the earlier we solve these problems, the better. Without power, the economy will not perform optimally. So we want our economy to be production-based. So we must work on power to make sure we have adequate powers. And the president of government of President Buhari has decentralized power. So that means state governors can now generate electricity. And from my own findings, 1 megawatt can power average of 200 homes. So I don't see anything wrong. Some states that are rich to start electricity projects so that at least if what comes from the federal government, they can augment with the little they can generate. It will bring stable electricity and it will encourage production, it will encourage employment, it will increase tax, it will generate revenue, and of course, if people are gainfully employed, there will be less hands to be engaged in security. So I think government should work in the direction of electricity production urgently. Federal and state, they should also bring investors.
Now, there's been a concern about the amount of government agencies owing humongous electricity debts. Quite recently, the presidential villa was also brought into the spotlight. And in response, despite the commitment to offsetting this debt, the presidential villa is looking to move away from the national grid. They're looking at the options of having photovoltaic meters and solar-powered alternative grids. Many Nigerians are asking that if the government who ought to show commitment to electricity is pulling out of the national grid, what does this entail for the fate of the average Nigerian who cannot afford photovoltaic meters or the solar-powered alternatives?
Well, recently federal government, they started the project by creating mini grid for universities and for big hospitals in the country. By the time, if they do that, they will free more megawatts for the general populace. There will be more electricity for the population for Nigerians to use. So it's a good thing if they do that. If they remove their hands from the national grid, it will free electricity for ordinary people to use. So it's a good thing if they do that.
But on the availability and affordability of alternative energies in solar for entrepreneurs and residents, do you think that the federal government could also show commitment in making it investor friendly so that we have affordable alternatives within the country to buy other than relying on importing solar panels and whatnot?
Yes, it's a good thing. Some of these things are expensive. They are capital intensive.
But we have a lithium plant here in Nigeria. Why can't we, maximize the fact that we have lithium, which is a component raw material for durable batteries that can power solar panels?
These are options that we can explore also. We have engineers. We can get some of these engineers. We can send them abroad to be trained and start production of some of these things locally so that we can solve electricity problem effectively, make it accessible to an average Nigerian. Government can also subsidize some of these things. They can create a loan platform for people who wants to buy, so that as many people who can afford some of these things, they can afford to pay, and government will subsidize. Government will also create a cluster for certain people, so that if people live in a particular environment and they want their own grid, we can create a mini grid for them, and it will function effectively. Especially some of our people in certain parts that are finding it difficult to access electricity. We can create so many options for them, especially the small scale businesses. We can create solar panels that are cheap. We can train people to do these things. We can also subsidize for them so that people will be able to afford it and their businesses will thrive and operate maximally.
Well, before I let you go, my last question is on your assessment of the Power Minister, Chief Adebayo Adelabu's performance in the last 2 years. I've seen a lot of criticism on how he has performed. What do you make of his performance?
Well, when I studied the situation, the subsidy on energy for this year is more than the budget of Power Ministry. So what do I expect the Power Minister to do? He can do little or nothing. The budget for his ministry this year cannot pay for subsidy. So how do we now solve the problem? So it's a difficult challenges, and it's only federal government interventions that can really find a lasting solutions to some of these problems.
Well, we must thank you, Olukunle Durodolu, for taking our time to lend your thoughts. We wish you the best of today, and do enjoy your holiday.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day too.
I appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure to be here.